That was close. You hear that snow? It is super duper cold today. Minus 20 Celsius. You guys have to figure that out in Fahrenheit and American, but it's cold for here. So it's a pretty good day for insulation. Welcome to season 2 of the small cabin build. So we're moving on from the exterior to the interior. So we had to make some difficult decisions. Let's come on inside and have a peek here. So we had to decide how we were going to insulate this thing. Some of the ideas we had were slip straw. The slip straw is a mixture of straw plus clay. Mix it all up, and then you add a board up against the wall and you stuff it down in the board, and then you let it harden, and then you move up and you continue. We're still thinking about doing that for the walls. We haven't completely made up our minds on that yet. But we have decided on the ceiling. The ceiling will be using Roxol insulation. It's water resistant, fire resistant, etc. It's a modern insulation. It would be really difficult to get insulation up in those rafter spaces. And then we have to also deal with our rafter tails. So we're going to use some spray foam insulation there. And the thing is, we have not managed to get this cabin warm yet. We have a fire going all day and it still doesn't warm up. It's leaking air like a sieve. So if we want to continue to build and we want to dry this out, so we want to insulate our walls and all that stuff, we have to dry our lumber out. So we have to get this at least partially sealed, start to retain some of the heat in here, get it up to, you know, above freezing temperatures, so we can continue to do all the things that we want to do in here. Otherwise, we're waiting until spring. So what we're doing now, we fetched some Roxol insulation. Bring that in now. We got some spray foam insulation. We have a vapor barrier. So that's what we've decided to do. We're just going to put that up in the rafter spaces, and that's going to move on to our next step. And then we'll think about the walls. We're thinking about power this season. We haven't got a decision yet on that. We're thinking a generator. If not, we're going to have to use gas lanterns and battery powered LED lights. We'd prefer not to go that way. We prefer to go with the generator. So we will be making a decision on that as well in this season. But you can see the fire's roaring. Fire's roaring, but the temperature is not. So it's really time to make this an all-season cabin that we can enjoy all year round. And to do that, we need to increase the temperature by a lot. That's too much fun not to do it twice. That bag's all torn open. Oh, I guess that's bag number 1.
What happened to that one? This foam's really sticky, I like it. So what I'm doing is I'm filling all the gaps between the end plate and the blocking that we had. This is to prevent bugs and hopefully mice from getting into the cabin. So we're just kind of sealing it up before we seal it up even further.
What are you using?
This is a can of foam, just regular polyurethane foam, low expansion. First time I've used this particular brand, but it seems to be sticking really well to both sides. I know the other foam I've used before in the past hasn't really stuck really well. You usually have to have a gap, but this one is almost like going in like caulking. So it's actually joining to both sides, which is actually quite nice.
as we're putting the caulking in, we're using blocking as well. So the blocking will fill in that last little gap here, because this piece here didn't reach all the way to the top. And we have our rafter tails at the outside, so we want to preserve all that. So all we're going to do is foam in through here, and that'll seal the boards in. Some of the boards have already been nailed, but these ones, it's hard to get the nail in there, so they'll seal up real well with the actual foam. And you can see we continued the same kind of thing up in here. I don't know if you can see that or not. There, this one you can see. So we foamed a block up in here that'll seal it right up nice and tight. Those we were able to nail and then fill in that foam bits, and then the rest is going to be insulation. And then once we get our insulation in, then we do vapor barrier and we'll be sealed up, and there'll be an airspace provided by the strapping here, so that there will be no condensation issues. So there'll be nothing touching the cold, freezing cold deck here. So once we get this sealed up, we should be looking really good as far as temperature maintenance in here.
This isn't really a how-to video, but if you're actually building a cabin in your region, you should probably look at local building practices. Doing vapor barrier and insulation, sometimes like you gotta take into consideration what your average heating season is. It could be really cold where you are, a vapor barrier is important, and if it's really warm where you are, vapor barrier isn't important. So you gotta really look at your local geographical conditions before you decide what you're going to do. If you go on the internet, there's 6 of 1 that are telling you one way, and if you look, and you even ask you have to ask your local building professional that's been doing it there for decades to determine what is right. That being said, sometimes when they were doing it in the past, they've discovered that in the future it's no good. So again, it's local building practices that are up to date.
Just a little bit of foam filling those gaps. You can already tell the difference it's making in here. It actually feels nice and warm up here. There's drafts everywhere, even on all the siding, because it's so thick. If you actually look down the siding, you could see cracks. So it's drafty as heck using natural materials. But the only way to do it is like this: is slowly sealing up all those holes that you created using the natural materials. You don't bind together like they would ordinarily. You don't get a full sheet of anything like you do with a piece of aspenite or a particle board or whatever, plywood. In the siding too, it doesn't seal together properly. Everything's weird and wavy and all those wonderful things, but over time it's going to seal up nicely. Yeah, it's made a huge difference. I feel warmer up here right now. That's great.
It's pretty wild how just like in the last 5 minutes, it's almost making it room temperature up here for the amount of just like half a can, basically, of foam just sealing up the air gaps, and it's almost making it manageable here. It's minus 22 outside, and it's feels like my hand's not frozen. So it's pretty crazy. Probably -5. It's almost t-shirt weather in here.
Almost.
Wear a mask, they say. Probably should.
Kevin's tucking her in, and I'm making sure he's got enough stuff.
He's like, I don't want to touch it. It's itchy.
Oh, I hate the other glass stuff, man. It gets in your hands. The hands are the worst. And then you put it in your glove, and then it grinds in your hand all day long. And by the end of the day, you take your hand off, or you take your glove off, and you think you got rid of it all. and then your hands just feel like you have cuts in them, little tiny cuts all the rest of the time. And it gets in your throat too, so that fiberglass stuff's junk.
Probably wear a mask.
Kevin says you should probably wear a mask. You guys should wear a mask. It says right on the package, wear a mask. And properly ventilated. So after we get all the rock wool in, then we're going to use our vapor barrier. Tack it all up, and that'll be pretty darn good seal. There's a few places where we'll have to address some things from the outside, especially around the peaks. It's not really conducive to having a mechanical barrier, and we want to have a mechanical barrier everywhere so that we don't get mice climbing up the wall. Like, they'll climb up the cedar wall on the outside, and then they'll start digging through here. Like, we've got this all sealed up really, really well. There's some spots at the peak still, and once they get a trail worked in there, then they follow. It's like a urine trail, feces urine trail. They drag their that's what their tails are for, in case you're wondering. They and pee on it, and then they drag it around, and then all the mice are like, hey, there's a channel here, and then they follow it, and they have the hole, and then there's a runway, and it's a whole thing. It's a scent trail marking. So once you got a problem with mice, and it doesn't go away because they find that little crack, and then they keep going in and make a home, and then they invite their guests, and then they have a party in here, and you're not invited. And you have to deal with the mess. So it's like a bad frat party.
Really, you're not gonna insulate anything?
I'll insulate a little bit.
Ah, jeez.
It's getting in your lungs yet?
No.
You can open the window.
See, people think if you just jam insulation into a hole, it's gonna be like great. But if it's not really tight and friction fit, it's only as good as your weakest link. So if you keep holes everywhere, it's like having a window open. So your insulation, your R value of, this says R value of 22, but if you've got spaces everywhere, you're basically leaving, your R value probably goes down significantly. So it's really important that it's really tight. It's behind the scenes because, you know, we do use safety equipment. We're rolling out vapor barrier. We're gonna make it for the ceiling, but it's easier to cut it now than to cut it up there, which it'll be hovering in midair. Go into the wall. Go right to the decking, like on this side. Go right to the side. Yeah. Well, this is a trade secret if anybody wanted to know. To put vapor barrier up straight, you do a straight line all the way down one side, and then you go from the middle and work your way out.
There you go. Don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody.
Well, you know what? Feel free to do your own insulating, because it sucks.
It sucks. Trying to find the middle.
Folded. Why is it so short?
Well, we got a pretty messy cabin right now. This is not a workspace anymore. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna tidy it up. Got a hole in here today. He's gonna hang out, read books, and help out where he can. So we're gonna take everything out. We're gonna sweep it because nobody wants to work in a space like this. It's not fun. So we got to clean all this out, sweep it out, and then we get a nice wood pile here, get a wood stove fire going, and all that stuff. And then we can start actually doing a little bit of work. Alright guys, that's a pretty good dent on the start on the interior work. Obviously we got a ton of work left to do. We just did the cleanup, we got the insulation in, that's good news. So next time we're going to start pillaging the trailer. We're looking for some wiring. We're going to move on obviously to the electrical next. We have a generator on the way. So that's all coming in. We need to make a generator box to protect the generator because the generator can't be actually inside the structure for obvious reasons. It burns gasoline, so you can't have that inside at all. So that'll be the next steps. I've been thinking for a while now about introducing a series on modern masculinity. I thought of a couple different ways of doing it. One, I could just do an end of the video chat and then kind of voice my opinions on certain things. Sometimes opinions are just, you know, a dime a dozen, right? Everybody's got one and it's not always constructive. And I was thinking, do I actually qualify as a person who can talk about modern masculinity? I don't know. I've been on the planet for 40 years. I think that qualifies me in some regards. In other regards, like, well, do I really know what I'm talking about? I don't know. So I'm going to tie into a story just now. Obviously, it's related to hockey and me as a coach, so it may not resonate on that level to everybody, especially my American friends. You know, if you don't play hockey, but the lesson is a universal one. So I had a kid on the hockey team, and he was a really strong player, but he was kind of lazy. He would go on the ice, he would do whatever he wanted to do, come back. If he wanted to go score a goal, he'd score a goal, and that was cool. It was great to have him on the team. He was an asset to the team overall. He would only play mostly one way, offensive. And if you play, you know, hockey, you have to play offensive, you have to play defense, even if you're a forward. He labeled himself as a centerman. Centermen are usually pretty good utility-wise. They could do a lot of things. They can go and dig in the corner. They can back check. They can cause the other team problems in their zone. And in our zone, they're an offensive threat. So you got to be a pretty strong all-round player to do that. And I said, you're not a centerman. So what we did was we threw him back on the defense and said, okay, whenever you want to do a rush, take the puck up and go rush up on the net and score. Otherwise, you can hang back. You don't have to skate all the time. Because again, he was lazy. He was not aggressive. He was not digging in the corners. He was not back checking. He was not doing all the things that a centerman needs to do. So we tried him at defense. He worked really well. Every once in a while, he'd go up on a rush and score a goal. Most of the time, he'd hang back, get the puck off our end corner, pass it up to the wingers. The wingers would go up, do their thing. But he didn't like playing defense. But I had a plan for him, an ultimate plan for him. And the thing is, I wanted to develop him as a player. I wanted him to understand that he had an asset and that he wasn't using it to its fullest potential. So I put him back on defense to kind of teach him a lesson. It wasn't punishment. We need a whole team. We need forwards. We need defense. We need a whole team to put together an effective all-round hockey team where it matters if you score a goal and if you prevent a goal from being scored. So we had him defense for a while, and he comes up to me, he says, I want to play forward. And I said, okay. So you played defense for a while, let's try you back forward, let's see what happens. We'll put you back at center, see how it goes. Well, he played, and he kind of went back to his old style playing. He would score, go up on a rush and score when he wanted to. Most of the time he wouldn't, he'd be lazy. So that's not a centerman to me. So we put him back on defense, and they said, listen, we need you back on defense. So he played another game defense, and then the next game he says, listen, I really want to play forward, I want to play center. I think I'm a centerman. And I said, no. I said, no, today another kid on your team wants to play center. So we're not going to play you center. I said, how about wing? And he said, no, I think I want to play center. And I said, okay, that sounds good. How about defense? No, I don't want to play defense. Well, I know you don't want to play defense, but we have to put together a team, and sometimes we need a defense. So he says, no, I don't think I want to play defense. I said, okay, so how about wing? Think about that. Wing. How about wing? And I was pushing him hard on this, because had been going on for about 3 or 4 weeks now, and I really wanted to make my point known to him. So he says, no, I don't want to play that. And I said, well, how about defense then? No. He says, well, if I'm playing defense, I'm not playing hockey. To me, that's a conversation ender right there, because that's a question of my authority. That's a question of me as a coach. That's the question that he's challenging me head on. So I end the conversation that I said, you better think about what you just said to me, because that's not how we play hockey. Hockey's a team sport. And I walked away. And I thought about it for a second, because what happens next is really important, because this again is a 3 or 4 week project I've had to bring this kid onto the page of a whole team and be effective as a member of our team. So I talked to their coach, and I said, listen, you have to go talk to the boy, and you have to let him know, you have to address this, because I knew right away I had lost my authority with him, and anything I said on top of that was probably not going to be helpful, and was not going to be constructive, and it was not going to get us where we needed to be. So he said, okay, I'm going to go talk to his mom. And I said, wait, no, let's not do that. Let's not bring his mom involved, and let's not have a conversation altogether like that. So I just kind of left it there. That was my 2 cents, but I wanted to leave it up to the other coach to see what he thought about what he had said. And he right away, he was on the same page with me. That's not right. You don't say that to the coach. As much as, we should question authority, there are times when coaches are trying to do something constructive and you don't question your authority. Part of it is strategy or helping. So he came back to me and he said, listen, this is what I did. I went to his mom and I said, I'm going to tell him that if he doesn't want to play, he doesn't want to be a team player, he's not going to play hockey. He's going to take his equipment off. He's going to go home. And I said, I like that idea. Although at the level of play, we're not allowed to do that. So I knew it was kind of a ploy. But he was pretty serious about it. This other coach was serious about it, and he was going to follow through with it, because empty threats are not good. They're not productive. They don't help. As soon as you get called on your empty threat, then you have no power anymore. So he was perfectly willing to follow through with it, because he was more upset than I was. I didn't take it personally, although it was a challenge. It was a personal challenge of my authority and my ability to coach. So the kid backed down right away, immediately. And as a matter of fact, he did check in with his mom, and his mom was okay with that strategy, because his mom was actually very, very upset by the fact that he wasn't being aggressive when he was on ice. He wasn't skating. He wasn't playing hockey. So what happened was, it was addressed right then and there. It was decided he was going to play wing. And he was playing wing and not as punishment. He was playing wing because that's the best position for him and for his personality. Because as a winger, you're not split. You're only covering half the ice. You don't have to go dig in the corners. You just get the puck whenever you get the puck from your centerman or from the defenseman, and you go and do your rush. That's it. It's a simpler position, and it was the right position for him all along. Despite me having to put him as defense, because he doesn't like playing defense, but he doesn't like playing center. He doesn't play center. So long story short is that he played wing, and he played wing well. He scored a bunch of goals. He got to skate less. He got to be less aggressive. He didn't have to dig in the corners. He didn't have to back check as much. He didn't have to make a mess for the other team, and he didn't have to not back check as much. So overall, it worked out for him. But this was a long process. So the reason I'm telling this story is because sometimes it takes somebody else to teach your son something. And in this case, it wasn't my son at all, but the lesson came not from me, but from another man. And we came together and taught this young boy a lesson about how the world works, about how hockey works. So the other coach reinforced what I said. So this is kind of a roundabout example of me telling you that maybe I can reinforce some of the things that maybe you've heard your dad has said, maybe not well, or maybe as you're already a grown man and maybe you just need to listen to it again because you just ignored it when your dad told you the first time. You know, sometimes when we take ourselves out of it, we stop listening to our dad. We just think he doesn't know what he's talking about anymore. And it usually happens around puberty, and for good reason. We stop listening. I think really think we stop listening to our parents when we become teenagers because we've listened to them our entire lives, and up until then they've had a good shot at forming our framework. And if they haven't convinced us that they're effective people, or they stop teaching us new things and they're kind of repeating the same things over and over again, and maybe they're not working the first time for us, we do need to hear it from other people. So maybe I can be that other person that shares my perspective on what worked in my life, and you can hear it instead of from your folks all the time if you're younger, or if you're older, maybe it's a lesson, like I said, you ignored when you were younger. But so sometimes it helps to hear or reinforce the positive, constructive viewpoint from somebody else. So as this kid realized that I wasn't just me, you know, I wasn't just attacking him, I was helping him. And then when he heard it from somebody else, and that was reinforced by what his parents were telling him, you have positive male role models helping a young boy. And I really do believe that we need our male role models to help our boys. And of course, the girls out there, it doesn't hurt to listen to it reinforced as well, because then you kind of know the boys you want to find, because they're going to have constructive male role models. And I didn't always have a great role model as a father, so it was something that it took me 20 years or so to work through. My dad wasn't a horrible dad. He did the best he could. His dad was worse than him, so he had to work through that. It took him longer. So 2 generations, I believe we fixed the issue in our family and our lineage, and so that is something that I can pass along to my son, and hopefully he picks up, you know, the amount of selflessness that I have for me and that I've passed on to him. So before we go, one idea I had was to just address this as a separate series. So, you know, there's all sorts of different topics we can cover, and you guys can obviously give me some suggestions, but one of them is just like fitness. And I can show you what I do for fitness. So guys used to ask me all the time when I walked around more with my shirt off in videos, used to ask me what kind of workout schedule. It's a 30-minute workout schedule. I do it like 2, 3, 4 times a week at the most now. Obviously I'm older, I can't do it every day. I used to do it every day, and when I was 16 I used to work out pretty heavily. I don't have to anymore. That's the beauty of it. It's just that I hit it every once in a while. So it's a 30-minute workout. I do that at my house. I have like basically free weights. It's really simple. Costs you a couple $100 to get the weights, and you have those for life, and you could resell them for a couple $100. So if you guys are interested in seeing that, it's not going to be fancy though. So I don't know if it's a standalone video or not. It's just basically going to be me with a pile of weights, and I'm going to break down the different body parts and show you that. So if you're interested, I don't know. Like honestly, I don't know. Like the videos, like to make a successful video is one thing. It requires quite a bit of overhead, quite a bit of work. So I don't know if like me just aiming the camera at myself in my house is going to be something that's going to be widely consumed by people. There's always a subset of people that are interested in hearing, you know, these kind of fireside chats. But as a standalone, I don't know. So you guys can let me know what you think about that. So we're going to jump back into the cabin next week. Everything's got mixed up, but it could be like every Monday. I'm trying to do one a week. It may be a difficult pace to keep up, talking to my brother to see what he's interested in putting out, because obviously it has to be a collaboration between the two of us. So I really have enjoyed doing the cabin build, and I'm looking forward to the future projects that we have with the cabin. It's a nice mix-up of topics that I can do alongside the outdoor stuff, and then touch more on the well-roundedness that is masculinity. So it's not like when the camera is turned off, I stop being, you know, a man. So these are the things that we're doing anyway. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just a way of, I guess, connecting and maybe helping on a wide scale. You know, I can help my 20 kids on the ice and hopefully make a big impact with them. And I think I have, because every kid on the team gets really some special treatment as far as bringing them all up a level. And I know it's just hockey, it's not social skills or, you know, sort of life skills, but I do believe functioning well on a team is a really important asset that will pay back when they're doing projects like the cabin build, where you actually have to work as a team with other people, and it can't just be all about what you want to do on the ice. You know, you have to contribute constructively to a wider community, a wider goal. So maybe I can help you with that, and maybe I'm qualified, maybe I'm not, but you know what, if I'm not qualified and you guys don't like what I have to say, you can always correct me and clarify down in the comments and let me know. So if you think of other topics you want to cover, let me know too. So being physically in shape was one thing. Also, relationships is always a tricky one, but it's a tricky one to address because I've touched on it a little bit before, more jokey, more tongue-in-cheek as far as like having the edge and things like that. But there are better ways to convey that, maybe in a longer thing, but it's not very interesting. It's more like podcast stuff. So because you can't show examples of how it works, but having frame is one really important thing with your girlfriend, with your wife, and with everybody around you. Having a solid frame, just like the cabin needed to have a solid frame to hold itself up. I think having a solid frame to look at life and withstand life, because it comes at you from many different angles, and if you don't have a strong frame, strong body, frame is more up here, then you collapse. As soon as anything agitates you, you just kind of break apart, and we don't want that. Of course, as a man, you are the oak. You are the oak in your girl's, you know, your wife, your girlfriend's life. She needs the stability that you're able to provide, and if you don't have that frame and you collapse all the time, then you won't be helpful in your relationship. So touch all those. There's two little topics I thought of, and there's of course a myriad of other skills that tie into modern masculinity that we can get into as well. So drop your comments down below. Let me know whatever you think. I'll obviously be reading them and replying to them as much as I can. So guys, talk to you later. My wife doesn't like the new tagline. You can subscribe or not, I don't care, but I care about you, because she thinks it's cheesy. But I mean, if you guys have been watching and leaving comments, you know I care about you. As corny as that sounds, I mean, I really do care about I care about people, I really do, and I want everybody to be successful. I want to bring everybody up. Each person on my hockey team gets brought up. Everybody, nobody gets left behind, and we're all can be successful when we jump on the ice. And I think we can build a better community that way too. We can all bring each other up together. So you can subscribe or not, I don't care, but it doesn't mean I don't care about you.